Welcome to a new video on Negetcha3's channel, friends. Today we have to talk about the second season of My Adventures with Superman, a series that personally I quite like. It portrays a younger Superman in anime-style animation, with Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen supporting him to defeat upcoming enemies. Oof, indeed, the animation won. In this season, we already have Sam Lane separated from the X-Force project. Amanda Waller has seized control, Clark and Lois face relationship issues, Jimmy Olsen starts wasting his newfound wealth. And last but not least, Kara Zor-El finally makes her appearance in these episodes. Although, that being said, her way of thinking is very different from that of her cousin raised on Earth. Please like and comment with your thoughts on this series. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing to show your support. Consider subscribing to the channel and enabling notifications to stay updated on new content. There are several videos coming soon. Let's get started with this immediately. After saving Metropolis and the world, Superman's life appears good. Does he still rescue cats from trees? He has loving parents, a devoted girlfriend, a loyal, wealthy best friend, and is constantly applauded by the public. However, not everything is perfect. Clark still has those internal fears knowing that he is an alien and will never be normal. This manifests itself in the form of nightmares that rob him of sleep at night. Yes, well, how sad. Although the first episode doesn't start off so serious, with let's say Clark trying to create the perfect date for Lois Lane, because it's February 14th. It's worth noting the subtle reference in the original audio to the poem Clark wrote for his beloved.
Can you read my mind? Absolutely not.
Here I come.
Can you read my mind?
It's a direct nod to the 1978 film where Superman and Lois fly together for the first time. Also, that's the name of their song in this film. It's clear that the My Adventures with Superman theme has a lot of affection for the character, right? I won't dwell on this to avoid disrupting the story, but I wanted to point it out as I found it to be a clever Easter egg. Perry White ends up cancelling Valentine's Day because the Daily Planet is being overshadowed by the Gotham cassette. And the stories of Vicky Bale, so thanks to Lloyd and the information from his pilot friend Handsome Hunk, who works at Stark Laboratories. They find out about a meteorite that has been orbiting the Earth and that could hit us at any moment. This brings back tragic memories, funny but tragic.
Hank, what are you doing? Don't worry, Terry. Superman's here to help.
Clark and Lloyd are sent to draft that scoop. And well, Jimmy Olsen also sticks to them now that he is head of Firebird and no longer worries about making videos. Don't do that, Jimmy. I also trusted my channel and now I can't even afford a Marichan. Instead of working on Firebird, Olsen ends up accidentally running into Alex, Ivo's former assistant. And since Star Labs ended up absorbing the now non-existent Amazotech, Ivo's company, which went bankrupt after he turned into a monster. Alex was trying to get ahead now by asking for a job at this company, which of course didn't happen. That is, with his help, they almost destroyed Metropolis in case you don't remember. Seeing this, Jimmy decides to talk to Alex and encourage him to make his own opportunities. And yes, the intention was good, but did you just have to support Superman's #1 hater, Jimmy? Returning to the handsome pilot, Lloyd's friend, this guy is Hank Henshaw, remember him? UPS spoiler alert for Season 3. He tells them that Star Labs lost track of the rare meteorite they were monitoring, which disappeared over Antarctica. And he also shows them the only photograph they managed to take of it. It turns out that this meteorite, which looks nothing like a meteorite, is Clark's ship, the same one he has not stopped seeing in visions and nightmares. So, to prevent this ship from opening another portal as happened in Season 1, Jimmy uses part of his millions to rent a plane and take them all to Antarctica. In an instant, a gust of wind causes Clark to lose sight of his friends. In the distance, he can only see the holographic figure that his ship was projecting, and in trying to follow it, he ends up inside this place. This was precisely what Clark sought. The figure reappears close to him, generating a new scene around him. And Clark still had many questions about the attack on Earth, about the portal, about why he was left alone on our planet. And finally, the mysterious figure responds, "I am your father." We already knew it was Jor-El, obviously, but remember that Clark couldn't understand what his father was saying. So, the day he first saw him about 10 years ago, he was too scared to unearth the ship again until adulthood? Did you refuse to talk to me for a decade? Because the kryptonite keeps destroying the ship. Jor-El has little time to explain as much as he can to his son. He shows him the last days of Krypton, his origin. He tells him that he has a cousin named Kara, daughter of Jor-El. Meanwhile, Lois and Jimmy managed to find the ship on their own, but they ended up being attacked by the robots from this site. Here we realize that they were not the only ones investigating. because Waller and her men had recently arrived to collect new technology.
If Sam had exterminated the alien, we wouldn't be here in Antarctica.
With the ship falling apart, these two end up trapped with an agent. Luckily, Superman finds out that his friends are in danger and quickly comes to the rescue. Don't get close to my friends. This new villain ends up taking everyone to the bottom of the ship, an area full of kryptonite. But remember, this material is not only harmful to Superman but also to all Kryptonian technology. Waller and Slade arrive at this place quickly, understanding that they had found the hero's weakness.
Take it.
Jimmy isolates the rock, enabling Superman and Jor-El to defend against the enemies. The ship instantly changes location, leaving Waller and his men. And in this way, the Fortress of Solitude was born.
It's beautiful.
The damage from the kryptonite was irreversible, so Jor-El's time had run out. He used his last moments to tell his son how proud he was of him. He gives him the instructions to find Kara, and inevitably, Jor-El disappears.
My son, you made your power a shield for the helpless. You have filled your life with love. You are more than I could have wished for.
In the end, Clark and Lois reflect a bit on what happened today. Lois also asks him to help her rescue her father, as she now knows that Waller has him kidnapped somewhere. By the way, after all, these villains did manage to take over the kryptonite. However, there is still an enemy lurking from the far reaches of outer space. With no more time to lose, Clark and Lois begin to analyze possibilities about the location of Sam Lane. They were doing that when a boy on the street recognizes the reporters as Superman's friends and kindly asks them to help him find his father, a volunteer in Stryker's prison who mysteriously disappeared. With Jimmy unable to join them, Lois starts planning a discreet way to infiltrate Stryker. At times, she appears to forget that Superman is by her side. As they walk through the cells, they can notice that there is no prisoner here. Soon, they manage to find an underground facility that indeed involved the same people from Special Force X. Upon accessing the security room, Evo can be seen. And also that transmitter he mentioned. Jor-El Superman tells Lois about the existence of his cousin, another survivor of Krypton, and that this transmitter was the only way to find her. Before discussing this further, Sam Lane is seen on the screen being interrogated by Amanda Waller. Amanda's goal was to find more Kryptonian technology that the former general had hidden in some secret place. However, despite being locked up in this place, Sam would not give in to his former colleague and refused to answer any questions. At least until Amanda gets on his level, making it clear that after all this time, she knew everything about him. Once Waller leaves, it's the perfect opportunity for Lois and Superman to free Sam despite Lois's effort. The General strongly dislikes the risk these two have taken. He gives Superman a piece of his mind, he gives Clark a piece of his mind for not being there, wow. In short, the man's anger at the world also irritates Superman and Lois. The small argument sufficed for Sam to vanish. Waller, aware of his escape, concentrated on the search. He ended up face to face with the former general. Atomic Skull's intervention severely complicates this rescue mission. Although in trying to lose him, the team comes across Stryker's missing prisoners. Despite Lane having worked 20 years in covert operations for Special Force X, not even he knew what was happening here. But the good news is that they found Billy's dad, who by the way tells us that he woke up here after noticing that Stryker's prisoners were disappearing for no reason at all. And now it was evident that Amanda Waller and her people were experimenting with these individuals. Amanda shows up again, and while Superman is facing off against Tommy Skull, Lois and her father help the rest of the prisoners escape, although at the edge of the island, they are cornered again by Waller. She takes the opportunity to clarify that she was previously responsible for the prison break, which ultimately cost General Lane the command of Special Force X. Because even though they both sought to protect the world, Sam still cared about the people around him, while Amanda was willing to make the necessary sacrifices to achieve her goals. The battle against Tony Gaskell was challenging for Superman, but the hero prevailed, recovering the transmitter to find his cousin. Superman arrived in time to stop the soldiers, just like the millionaire Jimmy Olsen appeared on board a ship to save them all. Upon leaving the island and before Clark could tell Lloyd about the transmitter, well, let's say that for now the reporter's priority was to make peace with her father. By the way, this man was worried now knowing the true nature of Amanda, and since he was forced to hide until this conflict was resolved. Lois has the brilliant idea to invite him to live with Clark and Jimmy, and unfortunately for Clark, Sam ends up accepting the invitation. While Wall was accountable to his mysterious benefactor due to the prison disaster, Evo intended to take advantage of this moment to attack her and to the villain's bad luck. Alex easily stopped him, earning Amanda's trust almost immediately, seeing great potential in this boy. After 3 chapters, John Henry Irons is finally introduced to the series. Jimmy Olsen, the chief engineer of Amertek, a new company in Metropolis, in case you're unfamiliar. Now, among other things, living with General Lane has not been easy. Jimmy is stressed with the Bede Fuego tasks. It's harder for Clark to move around as Superman. And this gentleman keeps asking questions about his strange disappearances. Oh, it seems like these lovers have less and less communication. Lois is reporting on the Amertek conference where Thomas Weston is presenting Metallo, a machine he claims is more powerful than Superman, powered by Amer fusion. Vicky Bale is also at this conference and they both quickly try to scoop each other, questioning Weston about the whereabouts of John Henry. Lois is at a disadvantage compared to Vicky, who has more experience and contacts. But this isn't going to stop our reporter, right? Anyway, in the meantime, she's prowling around the Amertek facilities, finding out that Henry Irons' office was completely destroyed. Clark and Jimmy also have to investigate a mysterious voicemail that came to Firebird about some killer robots. Lois aims to uncover John Henry's fate before Vicky Bale, complicating her situation. It turns out he was hiding with his niece Flip at a secret location. He needed help with Amertek because when he was hired, he created an armor, which he called Steel, made especially for first responders. However, the company altered the initial idea to create something flashier, resulting in the creation of Metallos, which are unstable. The building that would power the reactors was literally a bomb that could destroy the city. But because Weston wanted to take over the void left by the extinct Mesotech, he didn't care about the danger this represented. Silas Stone and John Irons disagreed with continuing this, and for that reason, they were fired. Superman recalls saving the scientists from a house fire the previous night. But what the Kryptonian didn't know is that this incident was caused by Livewire to force Silas to erase all evidence that could compromise Amertek. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is Victor Stone's father. Exactly. At that moment, both Lois and Vicky had discovered this location as well as Livewire, who quickly destroyed all of Irons' evidence. This villain had been hired by Weston to prevent both Silas Stone and John Henry from informing people about the danger Amertek represented. So, before anyone else could interfere, the core that would power the Metallos is turned on. Superman and Henry reached Weston, warning him of the danger, but the businessman refused to back down, even activating the Metallos to defend the plant. The battle was proving difficult for Superman. He even got subdued by the machines. Luckily for him, Henry Irons was able to recover Steel from the facilities. Both faced the threats, and using a new power, Superman tried to contain the imminent explosion. While Henry destroyed the power pillars, the Firebird team also contributed. Metropolis was saved, but Weston was ruined once more. Lois Lane beat Vicky Bale to tonight's scoop, and therefore the latter invited her competitor to work on the Gotham cassette. John Henry Irons received his well-deserved recognition from Clark Kent for having protected his home, despite all the difficulties he had to face. But not everything is happiness, as Lloyd is seriously considering leaving Metropolis to fulfill his dream of working with Vicky. And even worse, LexCorp ended up absorbing Amertek, so now the metals and steel armors are owned by this fool and also by Amanda Waller. Meanwhile, Sam Lane's paranoia grew as he remained confined in the department. Star Labs invites Jimmy Olsen to join a debate on extraterrestrial life. They wanted him to discuss Superman. It appears Sam's fears were not entirely unfounded. This turns into a big day for Jimmy. In addition to emphasizing the great friendship that these two have maintained for years, always supporting each other. You know, Jaime once saved Superman's life? Actually, it was like a dozen times.
Can you believe it? We're flying.
What a madness to be myself. Why? Do I feel like this is not going to end well? The problem with Superman? The issue was that Olsen was unprepared for the debate and his opponent was the technological genius himself. Businessman, #1 colonist, criminal villain, #1 request for action ranking from Injustice. Because they are the only comics that Lex Luthor knows, who without a problem gives Jimmy a tremendous dragging, convincing almost the entire audience that Superman is a latent threat that must be exterminated. That is, let's ignore that this is the guy who helped create Parasite. Let's better blame the alien who gets cats down from trees and helps lost children. Why trust an alien? To say what suits us. You know what's the worst? That Jimmy wasn't able to say anything in favor of his best friend. And things are going to get even more horrible, but first we have to go back to Lois Lane. And when she tried to talk to her father about his job offer on the Gotham cassette, it turns out that Sam had already left from here. And yes, we need to find out where he's heading. This guy had a secret hideout that Lois got to without any problem, just like the enemies who are chasing the General. Thanks to Lois's previous adventures in Season 1 chasing Livewire, both end up in the sewers and remain safe, at least for a few moments. I think it's a good time to delve a little deeper into Lois's character. And throughout this journey with her father, memories of her childhood inevitably came up where she was drained. To escape, hide, and find a path in the middle of nowhere, thanks to the stars. However, as time went by, these games became increasingly strict. In addition to that, Lois's mother died after a long illness, and the constant moving did not allow this poor girl to keep a single friend. She just wanted a normal relationship with her father, but he never understood, and one day Lois decided that from then on, she would fend for herself. Noticing that his daughter had retained all those teachings, the General seemed somewhat regretful for not giving his daughter a normal childhood. But we'll continue talking about this later because right at this moment Atomic Skull appears. Both arrive at a pawn shop that turns out to be owned by Winslow's Shot, the toy maker. The old man, allegedly Sam's friend, warned him about Waller stalking him and was to assist in his escape.
Is this your plan? Do you still want to leave?
Yes, Lois isn't taking this very well. And even though Sam Lane decides to stay in the end, all of this turned out to be part of a trap. They narrowly escape Deathstroke and his allies. Coincidentally, they all end up where the Jimmy Lex Luthor debate was taking place. Thanks to this, Superman shows up in time to confront the enemies. With the weapons available, Lois and her father succeed in fleeing the location. The bad news is that Luthor blames the Kryptonian for the entire disaster. He convinces those present that even the most advanced weapons technology cannot stop Superman. These people must believe it. They likely get their opinions from generic YouTubers, the absolute worst. In front of Superman, Lex Luthor thanks Jimmy Olsen for that push to move forward and achieve his goals. Don't wait for opportunities, create them. Forge your own path. You're a great friend, you know that? Once safe, the pair reaches Lois's apartment. And this ungrateful old man mentions that he prefers to sleep here on the couch rather than spend another moment near Clark. And it's because he still considers him a weird guy, something Lois agrees with. This greatly discourages Superman, who had come here to seek some support from his girlfriend, but upon hearing this, he accidentally decides to leave. But don't get it wrong, actually Lois didn't say that in a bad way, but it was something she loved about Clark. Immediately after, she hugs her father to thank him for deciding to stay. When the General sees his daughter's injuries, he realizes staying near her would only cause her pain. So at the first opportunity, this old fool decides to leave without even saying goodbye.
Okay, Dad, you win. I will fend for myself by myself.
Meanwhile, atop the Daily Planet and hoping to find someone who could understand him, Superman finally decides to turn on the transmitter to search for his cousin, Kara Zor-El.
If you're out there and you get this message, I'm tired of being alone, I thought you might be too.
As the days go by, these two guide each other without being able to have a decent conversation. And this time they are interrupted by Perry White, who forces them to attend a contest where the most coveted bachelor of Metropolis would be chosen. Would Superman be there? And since they are the only reporters the Kryptonian would talk to, in case you were wondering why the champion of the oppressed would lend himself to a spectacle like this, the contest raises money for the Children's Hospital. Everyone goes their separate ways, but Lois Lane is threatened by Cat Grant to take her to the contest, despite Perry's orders. On the other hand, Jimmy still didn't know how to apologize to Clark for what happened at the debate. He was on it, mulling over the matter, until he had to intervene to save the life of a poor driver who was about to crash into one of the most powerful beings in the universe. This girl said her name was Kara, but I bet in her thoughts she wished Jimmy would call her whenever he wanted. Mario Hugo Olsen introduced himself as the leader of the planet and Firebird. Note this phrase. So, misinterpreting all this talk, Kara asked for his help to look for someone. My cousin, I also have cousins, we have so much in common. Just as Jimmy got lost in that intense gaze, blue-eyed gaze, he decided to also get lost for a while in the city, avoiding Clark all day. They went to eat ice cream, and Olsen agreed to find the cousin of this beautiful blue-eyed blonde, alone and apparently vulnerable, with no one else to turn to. But what a good heart Jimmy had. Along the way, they visited the park, snacked, and took photos almost immediately. Kara became Metropolis's #1 criminal because she stole this man's heart. Oh, love? Meanwhile, in the television studio, Lois realizes that Cat Grant is willing to uncover Superman's secret identity. Well, she's convinced that the champion of Metropolis surely has one of these highly sought after and very fine people as a partner.
He hides among us, disguised in plain sight.
Lois warns Clark to be more careful with his actions. To avoid being discovered, she advises her Superman boyfriend to act like a super bachelor. In the contest, should I give you a preview? It doesn't end well. The contest starts and the participants are introduced. Superman arrives at the event to applause from the audience. The champion of Metropolis graciously responds to each question asked. But the guy is so humble that the envious Han Henshaw can't stand him for too long and ends up leaving the forum. Maybe a meteorite will make him reflect. After this little show, Cat Grant is sure that Superman is dating Silver Sinclaud. That is, she's a beautiful, wealthy, charitable, generous, intelligent woman. And finally, Lois's insecurity explodes, causing her companion to laugh. Kindly, Cat tries to make Lois understand that they are just reporters. Unimpressive people who only dedicate themselves to observing and writing about worlds they will never belong to. It should be clarified that it was not Cat's intention to make Lois feel bad, and I also don't know who hurt her so much that she came to think this way. But anyway, moving on to other things. Jimmy and Kara reach the Daily Planet rooftop where Olsen apologizes for using her to avoid Clark. Kara admits she had also been avoiding something. She came to this city disobeying her father just to feel some freedom. In short, these two seem to like each other more and more with each passing moment. And after all, Jimmy decides to go where his friend is to sort things out. Superman wins the silly contest. Lois, unable to handle the insecurity of seeing Superman kissed by Silver, leaves. Superman badly neglects Kara as he attempts to patch things up with Lois, who finally vents saying that she is suffering because of her father and Vicky's job offer. The sum of all this, in addition to what Kat told her earlier about her inferiority, causes Lois to break up with Clark. At that moment, a furious Kara also appears over him, insulting her cousin as much as she can. Throughout the series, not even Lex Luthor has spoken to Superman in this manner.
I thought I would find a warrior, but I only found a joke. A lapdog that serves as entertainment to a weak and dissolute world.
And are you a disappointment?
Kara fully intended to conquer this planet. She answered to Primus, who without much thought, ordered Superman's annihilation. Facing the imminent battle, Superman decides to get as far away from civilians as possible. At times, Kara seemed to doubt what she was doing. Superman awakened a new power, and in light of this revelation, Primus changed his orders for Kara to bring Kal-El to him alive. Meanwhile, Lois and Jimmy could only watch as their friend was taken off the planet. When Clark woke up, he was not at all happy about being kidnapped, but he also had no way of getting home on his own. After arguing for a while and hearing that Kara's father was still alive, Clark agrees to talk a little with his cousin and learn more about old Krypton. Kara had the idea that this is what Primus wanted to impose on less advanced planets like Earth. Superman still didn't think this was right and showed Kara his home, the farm where he grew up, the Kents, his childhood, but she insisted that all they had taught him was to be weak. And speaking of weaknesses, is this Jaime?
Give me. No, stop being so weird with your damaged earthly mind.
Yes, Kara retained memories of planets already conquered by the Empire, but the most important memory was that of the man who had conquered her heart. I'm sorry, after noticing that Kara was not actually evil, Clark agreed to see one of those planets taken by the Kryptonian Empire, but not before playing for a while in an asteroid belt.
The ship can't maneuver around it. We have to clear it manually.
Help! I don't know what to do. I'm not an astronaut.
As I said, Kara is actually not a bad person, but she has spent her whole life in solitude. When the girl reached Tanaga, she was shocked to see the planet devastated. This was not what she expected. Kara was truly confused and her memories seemed to be blocked. Machines sent by Primus escorted the Kryptonians to Kandor as they were already quite delayed. Superman was expecting to meet Sorel, Kara's biological father, but instead he met Primus Brainiac, the one responsible for having been manipulating this girl all this time. Brainiac, an artificial intelligence, once controlled all of Krypton's technology. He knew everything about Cal's parents and claimed that the empire he wanted to create now was nothing like the one his house knew. He took Clark to a sort of room where he could watch him face his rivals. Did he want to measure Superman's potential? Brainiac's conclusion is that by using Kal-El as a weapon, the new Kryptonian Empire would be unstoppable. Although Kara witnessed how her supposed father subdued Superman, she couldn't do anything to stop him. Somehow Brainiac could control her mind, forcing her to withdraw and creating confusing memories. Deep down, she knew something was wrong and devoted her time to visiting other planets under the regime of the new Kryptonian Empire. She only saw ruins in her path, but the most painful thing was finding evidence about everything she had done. Under the control of Brainiac, Amanda Waller declared to Metropolis that Superman and his allies were an imminent danger. She deployed her Human Defense Corps ready for any sign of war. And even though all the witnesses claimed that the Metropolis hero had actually tried to stop the unknown invader, Waller did not accept any rebuttal that contradicted her, even going as far as to confiscate recordings and censor free speech. Obviously, Jimmy and Lois were not going to sit idly by. They had to do whatever it took to rescue their friend. So they came up with the idea to go to Livewire for help and steal a spaceship.
Oh, are you serious?
We will pay them?
And they also called Malay and Brain, who had already had enough fun traveling between dimensions. To be clear, the plan that Livewire proposes is going to work out terribly well for our protagonist. That's not the important thing here. What I would like to emphasize is that during this adventure, Lois continues to regret having hurt Clark and also feels a desire for revenge against the beautiful blonde kidnapper. She even carries some kryptonite with her, which she doesn't think is right at all. We weren't expecting Jimmy General Waller. I'm here to see the progress made. Hello, you know what? Now that I remember, this team's plan isn't going so well, to say the least. And it's just that Waller was in the building conducting a surprise inspection, and she's the one who ends up discovering that there's a flaw in the security. The team splits up, and Livewire appears to abandon the mission. The reality is that all of this was part of the original plan, which was not planned or expected to go well when they planned it.
Hello, my love. I never left. That was the plan. Now get out of here.
Even though Lex released the metals, the ship manages to take off. And the help of Livewire and his beloved Kolkas is key for our protagonists to achieve their goal. But especially, the power of their intense romance inspires Lois to keep fighting for Superman. In the end, long live love, supervillain love, which sometimes fights for the right things. And actually, it wasn't hard to run into Kara, which is strange because Superman couldn't find his way back to Earth. But these four without any coordinates arrived right where this girl was. I forgive them because they gave us this scene of Kara being happy, and her happiness brings me joy. Despite Aloy's dislike for Kara, Sorel, indifferent to the situation, suggests a plan to save her cousin, while trying to figure out what was wrong with Brainiac because she still didn't believe he was evil. Meanwhile, this villain used a device called Black Mercy to interact with Kal-El's memories. The goal was to find Superman's weakness because Kandor was falling apart, and therefore, Brainiac would need a new body to survive.
This does promise.
After observing Kal's battles, this enemy had deciphered that the Kryptonian always fought to protect someone and was sure he could use this weakness to defeat him. So he begins to modify his memory to make him believe that he has always been rejected by his friends. The trio successfully boards the ship without incident. Thanks to Brainiac being turned off and Kara almost confessed to Jimmy, she found Brainiac by chance. She attempted to convey to him that there was a problem, as the planets under Kryptonian rule had been destroyed and the situation required resolution. The only thing this villain limited himself to saying was that his daughter was a complete disappointment. At this moment, Kara realized Brainiac had been manipulating her, repeatedly erasing her memory and forcing her to subdue entire planets. And now that she knew, she was ready to stop him. Clark came to realize that something in his memories wasn't right. Not even Brainiac had contemplated the possibility that Clark could have control under the power of the Black Mercy. Superman explored his true memories, but his enemy managed to weaken him anyway, using authentic memories that fueled those negative feelings. A battle began in reality and also in Kal-El's mind. Clark woke up, and from the defeat of Brainiac, everything seemed to be perfect. She kept dating Lloyd, made friends with a bat named Jimmy, and Kara married. Marvel had recast the actor who would play Doctor Doom and chose Cillian Murphy. Henry Cavill remained as Wolverine Negajo. He finally had money to buy a chicken Maruchan. As I said, everything seemed perfect. Although things started to get strange when, upon returning to the Kent farm, the scenario is different from what we remember. But Clark seemed quite convinced that this was his home and this was his family. The sad reality is that our beloved Superman could never free himself from the Black Mercy. Although Kara had defeated Brainiac, by the time she did, it was too late. The consciousness of this villain had taken over Kal-El's body, who quickly took down poor Kara. She did her best to stop this damn thing, but Brainiac was too powerful. Even Kryptonite didn't affect him much as long as his consciousness wasn't attacked. After being expelled from the ship, Mala and Brain rescued them. And thanks to Lois having stolen Mercy Black's device, she didn't waste any time trying to save Clark by any means necessary.
Who are you? Intruder?
I don't remember.
Apparently, Kal-El stayed inside this simulation for a very long time, and somehow Lois had managed to connect to this world. These fake Yor-El and Lara knew they had to get rid of this glitch before Kal-El could regain his memory. The issue was their lack of knowledge. Even in this fictional world, Clark remained a caring individual who valued others. As they spoke in secret, both seemed to get along quite well despite not knowing each other. And it is at this moment that Lois can regain her memory. Lois's attempts to get Clark back are useless. Jor-El attempts to remove her from the simulation, but she reappears where she started. She tried again to convince her sweetheart that all of this was not real and that they had even already had this conversation. But Kal-El found it quite hard to believe that an operating system like Brainiac could be capable of all this. Lois returned to the usual place whenever the simulation restarted. She tried over and over again to get her boyfriend back, but it was all in vain, and Clark couldn't understand why a simple human would risk her life in this way just to rescue him.
I came because I am hopelessly in love with you.
Due to this confession, Clark gradually starts to recall his life, his real life. When Kara and Jimmy returned to Earth, Olsen immediately sought the help of the Firebird followers for what was to come. The ship was quickly attacked by Luthor and Waller's forces, weakening Kara with kryptonite. This arrest was broadcast live, so it didn't take too long before our heroes were saved by other journalists. And meanwhile, Brainiac's ship appeared over Metropolis. Although Jimmy tried to stay optimistic, Kara felt they had no chance against the threat her fake father represented.
Because that guy takes beatings like anything. All the time. It's just part of being a hero.
Honorable mention to Steve Lombard, who, although he didn't appear much this season, did the best he could. Brainiac presented himself to the world, giving it the opportunity for the planet to surrender. However, Waller and Luthor didn't consider this option for even a second. Amanda's forces unsuccessfully attempted to intervene, and even though Kara was an advantage for the humans, she was still attacked by Lex Clark's Metallos. He was quite confused by all the memories in his head, and the fake Yor-El was desperate to regain control of this illusion. And since, after all, we are in Clark's mind, this unwittingly gives Lois Lane super strength, mirroring Superman's abilities. He sees her all the time as a fearless, strong, and invincible woman. Yes, basically, it's the power of love that rescues these two from the Black Mercy. Together, they manage to break the simulation and return to reality. Upon returning to her original body, an enraged Brainiac attacked the city more fiercely, and only Kara could intervene. She wouldn't withstand another attack, but before the city was turned to ashes, Metropolis witnessed the return of the Man of Tomorrow. And with a new suit and all, the villain managed to take over the metals, thus easily knocking down the champions. It seemed that this time now, yes, things were lost, and the Air Force could not be too much either. And I'll highlight an interesting little moment here. Despite not being our favorite character, we must admit that Amanda Waller possesses sufficient courage to confront the world's end, with just a few bullets. Unlike before, I need Superman's help now. Damn it.
No, we just don't want to see the planet destroyed. Well, what's the play, hero?
The Special Forces X, along with Steel, helped Kara and Cal to reach Brainiac. Unfortunately, both of them getting here was part of this villain's plan, and he activated the Eradicator mode in Kara while she was unconscious. Brainiac shares an intriguing detail about Krypton. During the years when the planet was at war, Yor-El had secretly negotiated peace with his enemies. This intelligence found out about this, and since he had been created to help Krypton in the conflict, he knew that the end of the war would mean that they no longer needed him. So, to avoid being dismantled, Brainiac destroyed the planet that had created him. Kara woke up under the control of this villain. Sludge and Jimmy knew something was wrong, so they went to the combat zone to try to help. Superman still refused to fight his cousin. He tried to reason with her, and although everything seemed in vain, in the end, Kara Zor-El's will was much stronger than Brainiac's control. I know what...
It's like to be alone, to search for a place to belong. But home is not a place. Home is the people who love you. Come back home with us.
The strength of both champions was enough to remove Kandor from our planet. But Brainiac was far from giving up, or at least, he didn't intend to die without taking Cal and Kara with him. It seemed that Kara had met her end after being hit by a kryptonite ray and lost in the sun. But there was something that neither these heroes nor Brainiac knew. Until then, the yellow sun was the source of all of Superman and Kara's powers. Being near it made them even stronger than before. Had finally been born, and with a powerful and furious blow, Brainiac was destroyed once and for all. Kara awoke days later at the Kent farm, where everyone had been concerned about her. She became acquainted with Martha and Jonathan, adopting human customs. Metropolis seemed to improve from that point forward. Amanda Waller faced justice, and it seems that for some time things will be peaceful for everyone. At least until X-Corp decides they no longer need Superman again. But in the meantime, the good news is that Lois has decided to stay and be the #1 reporter in this city. Jimmy and Kara are apparently now together and may be getting married. I'll see if they invite me to the wedding. And in this beautiful way, this is how the story ends. But only temporarily, because Season 3 is already in production. In fact, we've already had a little glimpse of what's to come, but I think we'll talk about that on another occasion. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Thanks for visiting. I have nothing more to say. I'm Alex from the Negacho channel. See you later.